Raymond Francis Joshua Hummingbird III. I was born 15 years after Oklahoma was born, 1922, in Golden Snake District, in the Cherokee Nation, or Indian Territory at the time. At age 10, my dad was a school teacher. And at the end of 10 years, they decided I should go to school and learn to speak English. We had to walk, carried our dinner in a bucket, walked about 3 miles to school. Until the Depression hit in '29, he taught school, and it's really unusual. His first school was rabbit trap, and he rode a horse over to school. We would make wagons, ride up and down the hills, and sleds in the wintertime when on the snow. And we made our own, what they call checkers. We made our checkerboard that we made our own and used buttons for checkers. I used to hang my head out the window when I was the first child and sit there for hours, because once a week a car come by. A man would come by and drive in, and Mama would give him things that she wanted to order, like needles and thread and stuff like that. Then he took it back to Stillwell and turned it into the stores, and they filled the order, and then next time he come, he brought it. You didn't go to Walmart. There was no such a thing as that. We used our own doctors, our own far doctors, and snake bite doctors, and earache. But my nephew Rick, he burnt so bad one time, poured hot grease on him, that you couldn't see his eyes or his chest and his stomach. And the doctors just shook their heads. So they went and got a lady, her name was Shell, to doctor him. And to this day, Rick's 51 years old, and you can't find a scar. Nearly all of the children, though, was born at home. And not like it is now, that when you get a pain, you go to the hospital. I got my delayed birth certificate. I used the census of 1932 to prove that I was born. They told me at the time, it was a joke for people who didn't know. They said, well, you won't have any trouble getting a birth certificate. Just go to the hospital. And I said, well, I can just see when my mother went into labor, getting up in a wagon behind 2 horses and going 13 miles Westville to a doctor. All they'd done was call old Granny so-and-so, and I happened 2 days after Christmas, 1922. Some of the older people, they say, well, how do you know that you're 40 years old? Well, I know I'm 40, but when was you born? They said when the blackberries was blooming. She was born in that type of year, when the blackberries bloom in June, or say July. We ground our own corn and made our cornmeal. And if we wanted flour, we had to go from this area up to near between Siloam Springs and back this way. It was a place that ground flour and made flour, but it was whole wheat. It wasn't bleached. We had cherry trees, peach trees, and apple trees. And then in the summertime, you raised the regular things, beans and corn and stuff to make molasses, this cane. Everything was pork, because they rendered the lard, and they had the hams And they have this, what they call hog grinds now. We used to make something we called chitlins. We didn't waste nothing. To me, growing up in that era was so far advanced and what we have today, because your education and your family teachings, your religious teachings, and everything was exact. There was no guesswork. There was no television to hear this man explain it, and then another man explain it, and then another one to contradict him. You didn't have that. It was a law. It was a fact.